Funding for this video series was made possible by the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture's Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program.
I'm Stephanie Thomas.
And I'm Tom Maiorana. We are the proud owners of Spring Creek Farm.
One of the things you want to do when you decide what you're going to grow on your farm is find out what does grow well on your farm. And one of the things we discovered after a couple of years was that roots do very well here because we have a nice sandy loam. K-State had a sweet potato days down in Hays, Kansas one year. And I went down and learned a lot about it and just decided that we would give it a try because Tom loves sweet potatoes and he always liked growing them when he was a kid.
Yep. I'm Michael Pearl and I'm the owner of the Pearl Family Farm here in Platte County, Missouri. Specifically, we're about 10 minutes right outside of Parkville. Now, we've been farming this particular ground that you see in the foreground for 131 years. We'll be starting our 132nd year continuously farming this ground, which would have put it in about 1890. On the Pearl Farm, we grow sweet potatoes. That's one of our many crops that we grow. This year, I expect to put in maybe 7,000 sweet potatoes. What is that 6,000 or 7,000 sweet potato plants going to provide to us? We hope to get up to probably about 12,000 pounds of sweet potatoes if we have a good yield. We source our sweet potato slips because we have to buy so many. We'll source them from Georgia. We'll source them from Georgia, and also we're bringing some in from Kansas State University this year. Planting date should be, I'm probably going to wait till about June the 1st. Early is May 15th, but we're going to wait a little bit later. We don't hand transplant sweet potatoes. We have 2 people that ride on this device behind us. We can get, a couple thousand plants in the ground in a half a day.
We plant them then when the slips come in, roughly in the rows 1 foot apart. One of the most important part about growing sweet potatoes besides the soil preparation is weed control. The native grasses out here, they'll get out-competed and you won't get anywhere near the yields, and they're also much more difficult to harvest. The hard part then is keeping the deer off of them.
We'll mix up dried egg and water and maybe habaneros and spray the foliage. And that is usually good for about 2 weeks because the deer don't like, they may nip it with the peppers on it, but after a day or two the egg starts to taste bad and they won't mess with it. And if it rains again, we may have to do it again.
If you can keep the deer off your fields until the point where they start to really canopy, sweet potatoes are pretty vigorous growers. Not even deer can eat them all. Once we mound the dirt and plant the potatoes, have them weeded, then it's just a matter of waiting until harvest time, and generally you start sometime in September, and obviously you want to get them out before you first freeze, so we shoot for somewhere around being finished by the middle of October. I bought the smallest agricultural tractor they make. It's roughly 25 horsepower at the PTO. The good part about it, it's only 4.5 feet wide. You can plant as close as 3.5 feet. Because the sweet potatoes have a tendency to put out a lot of vegetation, I'll take a finish mower and hook it to the tractor and basically mow the very tops of the vines. And the biggest reason is so that you can see the hills. Otherwise, if you're going down through there, it's easy to drift off and cut potatoes with the next device, which is basically a set of discs that I mounted with some counterweights on it that I space so it's just about 18 inches apart, so it gets at the base of the mound. And the purpose of that is to cut the vines, because if you don't cut the vines when you go to lift them, the vines will wrap around the lifting tool and drag them out of the ground and scar them up.
Scratches them up
Scratch 'em up.
terribly.
Then of course the next thing we do is put that lifter up, which I made, and again it has a counterweight on it to keep it down to the ground, and also you angle it down so it tends to want to stay down. And basically what it does is lifts the potatoes with a cushion of dirt underneath of them, so it doesn't ever touch the potatoes, and breaks the soil clean and away from the potatoes without scarring them. And what we have to do is go through and pick them up by hand, shake them off, break them off the vines, lay them down on the dirt, let the sun kind of harden them up, dry them out so that they're not so soft or tender. What we'll do next is we'll go through and pick them up and in harvest bins, the ones that we feel are good enough to sell, size-wise as far as the quality of the potato. And we'll let them sit probably the rest of the day in the sun until they're dry. Then we'll take them into our farm room where we'll stack them in these harvest bins, 5 high and about maybe 4 wide and 4 deep. Put them under plastic and let them sweat out some of their moisture. Basically, it cures the potatoes. It actually seals off the skin to keep the moisture then contained within the potatoes. We do it roughly 8 days. We try to keep it about 80 degrees. And every day we'll go in the morning and take the plastic off, shake the water off, and put it back on.
Most importantly, when you cure those sweet potatoes, that's going to help turn the carbohydrates into sugar, right? So you want sweet potatoes, you want carbohydrates turned into sugar, and you want a shelf life, so you cure them.
We have a bermed room that we keep them in and keep them at about 45 degrees or above, and we'll sell them all the way through, sometimes even into February. Mm-hmm. And we'll sell at least, I think, between 200 to 500 a week pounds. We'll sell to the produce department, where they're going to want things that are like number ones and nice and pretty and clean,
Pristine.
and then at the deli they're not as particular. I mean, they prefer to have the big ones, because then there's less skinning of them and less prep work, so they kind of like the jumbos. And sometimes if they have a little bit of damage on them, they're not as particular either. So we separate it out according to that as well, size-wise and just appearance.
Once you get it down, they're not particularly hard to grow.